Om Namo Narayana, Om Namah Shivaya, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Welcome to another Satsang with your host, Chuck the Yogi from the Yogi Cave. And as I personally go through transitions, as we all have gone through transitions during this last year, let us continue with the Shiva Sutra. Priorities where priorities are due. Alright. 3.12 Divashat Sattva Siddhi. Translation: the truth is realized by pure intellect. Commentary. Again, we are talking about the intellect of pure awareness and not the intellect of thoughts and processes, which is what we specialize in the West in. The Western mind is very much caught up in the intellect of thoughts and processes. The Eastern mind has retained the understanding of the intellect of pure awareness. Jai Makan. So you could say that pure awareness is the ground or the foundation of consciousness. And then the intellect of thoughts and processes, you could understand it as the derivatives or the branches of that trunk. So going eastward, so to speak, is simply going back to the root, at least in terms of consciousness itself. And when you think about it, that's what yoga is all about. The development, mastery of consciousness. Anyway, 3.13 Siddhi Svatantra Bhavaha. Translation: Siddha is supremely free. Commentary. Siddha, which means an accomplished one, he is a yogi that has gone through the stages of, he or she is a yogi that has gone through the stages of purification and internalization, which leads to the state of Kaivalya, or pure awareness. Jai Makan. So again, we're talking about this pure awareness. We're talking about ceasing the monkey branches, right? Because when you think about it, all the things that we do, vices, ambitions, goals, all these other things are kind of like monkey branching. They're simply an externalization of what's going on in our minds. So to the extent that yoga or a yogini or a yogi can reverse course and move back to the root, then that has repercussions on the outside, because as within, so without, as above, so below. It doesn't mean that the yogi or yogini cannot discourse or venture out into the world and do this, that, and the other, but they do it from a mindset that has a firm foundation in pure awareness. Anyway, let's move on. 3.14 Yatadhatra Tata Anyantra. That's a very poetic one. Translation: as here, so elsewhere. Commentary. That is to say, the principles exposed here are the same here as in any other part of the sandbox and beyond. These principles are eternal, non-changing amid the illusion of change. Jai Makan. So, this is why I don't consider myself sectarian, and when I chant these mantras, I include all the major leagues in there. I include Vishnu, because Vishnu came to me in the form of a Hare Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam volume. Hare Krishna just handed it over to me when I was about, 9 or 10 years old or something, at the San Juan airport. He says, I don't know why I need to give this to you, but I need to give it to you. And he gave it to me for free. So Vishnu is really the key, kind of locked everything else. So I always bow down to Vishnu. You know, you might see me with Rudrakshas, but I also have, if you haven't noticed, holy basil. And so I addressed Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva is near and dear to me, but I also addressed Shakti because without her, I wouldn't have been able to get anywhere near Shiva. Because Shiva won't bat an eye for anyone unless they do proper penance and are presentable. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that I'm essentially non-sectarian, and what I adhere to is what could be called in the West the perennial philosophy, and in Sanskrit would be the Sanatana Dharma, which means the eternal natural way of things. And this sutra is alluding to that there is this eternal natural way, this root tradition that is the same everywhere, whether in India, in the West, the Americas, Europe, Russia, Japan, it doesn't matter. Another planet? All right, 3.15. Bija Vadanam. Translation. He should focus on the seed or the source. Commentary. Bija means the seed. As Jesus said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can do greater things than I. The seed of pure awareness is the source of creation. Jai Mahakal. So what comes to mind is the Devanagari symbol for Om, which is kind of like that, right? So you have this, represents the three states of matter, or past, present, future, or body, soul, spirit. And then you have this little Ganesha trunk sticking out of it, which is phallic. It represents fertility, represents things happening in the world, the ability to do things and make things happen in the world. And then you have this bowl, right? Represents that separation between the lower and the higher, or Purusha and Prakriti. And then you have the dot at the top of that bowl. And that really represents the bija, the seed, right? Because the Nath Yogis focus on Nada and Bindu, Nada being sound, right? And Bindu being light, but the seed of light is that singularity. So from the seed comes all things. And Jesus knew that, and the Hindus know that. It's from that singularity, that point. Anyway, move on. 3.16. This is a mouthful. Asana staha sukham radenim jati. Translation. Established in concentration on the self alone, he easily plunges into the ocean of bliss. Commentary. The self is Shiva. The self is Jiva. Self with a big S is Shiva. Self with a small s is Jiva. Jiva becomes what he contemplates. You become what you focus on. Perception becomes reality. If he or she contemplates on the self with a big S, day and night, eventually the veil between Jiva and Shiva fades away. Jai Mahakal. So right there you have the essence of Tantra, right? Because without mantra or yantra, you can't have the Tantra, right? Because mantra is the sound aspect of it, and yantra is the light or the visual aspect of it. So Nada and Bindu, right, together create what we call Tantra. So, yeah, that one is important to understand. And this is why the Hindus use imagery, right? It doesn't mean, in the strict sense, idolatry. What it means is that you become what you focus on. So this image is an idealized form or of the goal itself in visual It's a visual metaphor, right? So when a jiva, a yogi, yogini focuses on this image, whether it's geometric or whether it is in the form of a personage, eventually the hope is to be able to unlock that, the secrets, the contents, like what I'm doing with these mantras, with these sutras. It's the same with the mantra. It's the same with the image. It's all technology to help the person to move beyond the sandbox. Anyway, I'm going to leave it right there. That was a mouthful. So contemplate on that between now and the next satsang. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om. Shivaham. Jai Ma. Jai Mahakal. Till next time.